But by all implications here and indications, it appears that we're dealing with someone who is still performing their occult rituals in the afterlife or outside of space-time upon our species. And they're following certain occult traditions that are earthly born, earthly performed, and that raises a major problem. Now, I do, these are some of the ancient arguments as to what's going on. But rest assured, my friend, if the Nephilim theory is right, then the data we're seeing is wrong. And the data's not wrong. Data's not wrong. Again, if the fallen angels are trapped in chains of darkness, then they're trapped in chains of darkness. They're sure as heck ain't abducting people and inseminating them. No. And if their offspring are disembodied spirits, then they also sure as heck ain't abducting them and inseminating them. My point, though, is again, there are mechanisms that it weaponizes in order to either control portions of reality or our perception of it. And now what we're seeing is that's the same mechanism. And I believe it's the same reason. You're trying to kick it out of the house, it manifests in the port to anchor itself to. You're trying to kick it out of the person, it manifests in the port to anchor itself to.
Hmm.
So, whatever we're dealing with, we only know because we saw the black cat. You see that? Yeah, that's a glitch. Whatever that is, the program failed. We've seen this all throughout the history of the phenomenon. Forget about demonology. I mean, again, we can go into witch literature, Ariel Masters. I've mentioned it in hundreds of interviews where witches and sorcerers believed they were being abducted by demons. Why? Because that was the program that was being run on them. It appealed to their senses and their belief system, both. Combining both, it manipulated their perception of reality and, more importantly, their perception of the entities. Because these same individuals who thought, now, this is another crazy model of the phenomenon, they're performing rituals. That happened. That's true. We know that even in modernity. Jack Parsons, Crowley, all of that. We know that's still present. But my point is, these individuals were abducted by demons and thought they were copulated with corpses of demons, and they realized like the phenomenon glitched. They're looking around and they're not on the backside of a mountain. They're being poked and prodded by metallic objects that were designed according to the measure of a man. It is fulfilling the sensual part of our awareness to help further our perception of reality. Uh, Only this time that's not even a man, that's a machine. So they were performing rituals in the presence of machinery and technology.
Hmm.
We've heard that in demonology. We've heard that in exorcisms. When the priest is interfacing with the entity and the entity's just about to leave, but it doesn't know what else to do. So it will start to regurgitate from the cavity of the demoniac ports. It will replicate physiological constructs. It will replicate apports, materializations. Why? In demonology, again, well, it's trying to purify us. No, 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 no. It's replicating, it's anchoring itself, transferring from the person to the object. It just materialized in this construct. Did you eat nails, demoniac? Absolutely not. Why? Because you didn't eat nails. That's the phenomenon. Did you buy that coffee cup? Absolutely not. Right? Or is that the same figurine? No, I just destroyed it. What is it? It's something. The phenomenon is replicating, separating, and then will latch itself to it, anchor its presence in this construct. Now, that means there's two possibilities. Either we're dealing with a species that is in complete control of the construct,
Or
or a species that's fighting for control of the construct. And I think the latter is the case. Here's why. because they cannot hold their form for too long. They can't. They lean on a learning matrix to incarnate. We know that through abduction accounts, where okay, like it's almost like it has to pull from energy to hold its form, and then once that bank is empty, right? It has to. Oh my God, what can I be now? I can't be your favorite cartoon anymore. No, what am I gonna do? Right? It either anchors itself or it leaves. So when you look at this and you look at the fact that you have partial rendering, where it's not even fully materialized, it's an image rendering itself into the construct. You look at the programming, right? Well, I'm your dear Aunt Edna. Why? Because I chose to be that. So I can't be that any longer, or I decide not to. Something else happens. But we have evidence within demonology, specifically in exorcisms, where they're talking to the entity and they said, "What do you look like?" And one of them said, "I look like an egg, an ostrich egg." Fascinating stuff. My point, though, is to answer your question earlier, it appears that what we're dealing with is a singular intelligence that's diversifying its identity in our eyes. Once it's in our presence, it can project a physiological construct. Is it real? Until it isn't.
How you
Is it
define real?
physical?
Yeah.
Real? Exactly right. Exactly. Oh, I can feel it. I can, you know, I can monitor it. I can quantify it scientifically. And again, this goes back to Bud Hopkins. Somebody asked him a question. Okay, are these entities physical? And he said, most of the time, sometimes. Well, now what we're dealing with again is this idea that if, again, watch this. Ontology, the study of the afterlife. Well, what preceded that? Again, the archetype of the afterlife. What is that? An apparition, somebody deceased ancestor. Okay, but if that is a construct, then what we've done is we've created mythologies and entire theories, let alone fields of research, centered around a projection, something, someone doesn't even exist. And it's possible that the pre-archetype, before all of the other incarnations, is just a ball of light, balls of light that are intelligent and that can virtually do whatever they want to do.
Beyond the Forbidden.
Welcome to Beyond the Forbidden. Today on the show, I got Nathaniel Gillis back. What's up, bro? How you been, man?
Good to be here, man. I'm doing all right. You know, a lot of the research is now coming forward. We're going to talk about it. And it's good to be back with my friends. So thank you for the invitation.
Oh yeah. So you've been hitting up with Steve Merrill a lot, man. So what's going on there?
Oh, he's probably the leading parapsychologist in the world.
That's it.
He's
Nothing
That's
there.
it. Yeah, I mean that's it. Yeah. No, man, I love him to death. He's a dear friend and mentor, and it's just I live like if you were to talk to me about 6, 7 years ago, I can remember doing the research I'm doing and saying to myself, you know, Nathaniel, it'd be pretty cool to get on a podcast, at least get this research out there. Uh, and I sent an email to Coast AM. That was my very first show ever. Boom. Next thing you know, like it's just been a whirlwind. And so there was a time in my life where I had and this is new for a lot of my followers. I had, in the middle of doing this research, it's about 2017, I had discovered a breakthrough in my own work, necronetics, and then suffered a traumatic brain injury. And I had to learn how to walk again. I had to learn how to, um, I had to get speech therapy. Yeah, a lot of neurological issues, brain hemorrhage. It was just wild. And I would remember going back to my research of my favorite authors like T. Whitten Davies, Professor Esther Amori, Gideon Beharick, and all these individuals that I really loved, you know. And I forgot everything, everything. I had to go back. So I remember pulling the books open and like, oh, I wrote that. My handwriting isn't the same. My gait, the way I walk, isn't the same. And I remember waking up in the hospital, and my dad's like, "Listen, you're gonna have to go in to alleviate some of the pressure in your brain." And I just sat there and I came to the conclusion that if I wanted, if I had to do anything in my life, I want to do this. I want to do this kind of research. And it was during that time that I started to get into parapsychology. And I discovered Steve Mayer and Barry Fitzgerald. Their research was unbelievable, unbelievable, still is. And so I was corresponding with Steve on Facebook, I believe, just asking him questions. And at the time, I was extremely inquisitive, right? And I would just pester him, like, hey, I was listening to one of your lectures, what did you mean by this? You know what I mean? And
Uh-huh.
I had no idea, mind you, that years later, this was just this past year, that I would be flown to England and would actually lecture with him. Absolutely incredible. Just to sit down and listen to him and Barry and Paul St. Clair just talk about the phenomenon. It blew me away. That's when I realized
You
like there
also
are
met the Kinsella twins too, right?
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, they're incredible too. They actually really helped
I
me out.
finally interviewed Ronald twice this
Did
year.
you?
Finally, it's
Absolutely.
twice this year. Yeah.
Ronald and Philip, those guys are unbelievable as well. I mean, the cast that we had, I should say cast, I guess the lineup we had at that Awakening mini conference, The Dark Side of Ufology, it's very, 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 very good. I mean, we had some major hitters, and I'm not including myself in that, of course, but I'm saying like they are like what happened was I had a heckler in my lecture. So my first time out of the country, right? And I'm lecturing with these huge cats in the field, like huge. Like some of these guys have written episodes of the X Files. It's like, oh my God. And I'm the least of my brethren. And in the middle of my lecture, somebody jumps up, some drunk guy jumps up and starts cussing me out and yelling at me. And yeah, they kicked him out pretty quickly. But it was cool because like Philip and Ronald and Paul Sinclair and Steve, they all like, you ain't doing this. It was pretty cool. Like they handled him pretty quickly. But it was just an amazing feeling, to actually sit down with them in England and just say, okay, like what and pick their brains. Like what do you know about the phenomenon? Like what are the intersections of our research, respectfully? See what's going on. So, since then, he and I have become closer. Yeah, and he's incredible, man. You got to have him on, which I know you will. I'm gonna talk to him and he'll blow your mind, man. Like so the stuff he comes out with, he's one of those guys who just press record. I've seen him do it. Okay, I've seen him do it in one of our sessions. He'll just go on and on and on and on and on, and you're sitting there enthralled, like, oh my god, it's incredible.
Hmm.
Enough about Stephen Barry, brother. Enough. But yeah, so I can kind of give some insight into where we are in the research. I say that about my colleagues and I, if not me myself. The fact is that a lot of the people, both experiencers and researchers, really don't understand the capabilities of the phenomenon and that it can, in fact, create physiological constructs. What's that mean, Nathaniel? That means that even when we are listening to whistleblowers and ufologists and experiencers, and they will swear up and down that what they experienced or witnessed with their eyes was real, it may not be real at all. How does the phenomenon do that? I don't know, but there is a common what I'm calling now pre-archetype. So what I mean by that is that yeah, when we're interfacing with the phenomenon can incarnate a myriad amount of just different manifestations, dogmen, cryptids, bipedal cryptids, wolfman, the Yeti, the Bigfoot. In fact, the angel, the ghost, the demon. And at a certain point, and you guys will probably have seen this in one of Steve and I's sessions where we just break this out and say, okay, what are we dealing with? Where it's like, okay, what is the pre-archetype? Possible that all of these incarnations carry a pattern or that in fact something was there prior to their manifestation. And because that is the case, then we have to question logically if that manifestation is even real. I see it. Matter of fact, it's registered on radar and sonar. But is it in fact real? So through research, I've come to the conclusion that the most common pre-archetype, the pre-incarnation, is an orb, corpuscular balls of light. One argument is that they're plasma. I'm not sure. Still looking into that, of course. You guys will know if I come to that conclusion or not. Regardless, they are orbs, corpuscular balls of light. And whatever we're dealing with, again, being an alien, go through all the archetypes, really doesn't matter. Fact is that before we see them, we're most likely, most of the time, seeing an orb. Dr. Barry Taff had a case in the San Pedro, California. It's called the San Pedro haunting with Jackie Hernandez, where he is with his investigation team, and they're seeing a multitude of manifestations. Doors are opening and closing on their own. I think it was in this case that they had human blood plasma pouring from the cupboard that they collected, sent it to a laboratory, came back and said, "Oh, by the way, Jackie, you have human blood plasma seeping out of your cupboards." Insane, utterly insane. It was during this case that Dr. Barry Taff is filming these balls of light. I mean, sometimes they're as big as basketballs and beach balls just floating around the home, even outside near the wooden gate. He's got them on film. He's looking at them. That's kind of weird. So it's at one point in the investigation that they corner one of these balls of light, these orbs, in a room. And it's like his testimony was that we've got this thing cornered, we're filming it, we're observing it, and the ball of light goes pop, 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 boom. And there is a half of an apparition staring at them now. It was the torso up. It has arms, it has eyes, it has a mouth. And not only that, my friend, it's animated. It's looking at them, observing them. It's animated. Because at that point, Dr. Barry Taft said that all of his assistants fell to the ground. Boom. And he's there going, "What is this?" Matter of fact, it was in that particular case study, investigation, that Jeff Wheatcraft felt compelled to go up into the attic. And so this is also witnessed for those who want to watch it in the documentary. I'm not really sure what the haunting in California or something like that. I think it's on YouTube. Jeff Wheatcraft is ascending a ladder going up into the attic, and everybody else is obviously on the first floor. They're talking to Jeff, and Jeff gets up there and he's taking photographs in the darkness. And he takes one photograph and he says that as the light is flashing, he sees this cloud, this dark cloud, kind of this blob, I guess, is hovering in the back of the attic. And so, still against his own best interest, he goes back, he takes a full step into the attic, walking around. And they also have a photographer at the bottom of the stairs. And all of a sudden, they hear Jeff Wheatcraft go, "Oh, Jeff, Jeff, Jeff." Kept saying, "Jeff, you there?" Silence. Cold, eerie silence. They knew, they felt something's not right. So the photographer crawls up the ladder, extends his camera, snaps a photograph, and there Jeff Wheatcraft is being hung by the entity. The entity had found a screw or a nail, I forget which one it was, on one of the rafters. And a Jeff is walking. This thing wraps a little rope around him and begins to twist the screw where it's tightening this thing around Jeff Wheatcraft's neck. By the time they got to him, his face was blue and he couldn't breathe. And they finally alleviated him. They stopped it, cut the cord, removed him, and Jeff is catatonic. Fact is that This is a common pathology with the phenomenon. If people don't understand that, if they don't grasp that idea, they're going to completely miss everything about this intelligence. I mean, even Lloyd Auerbach was in a case study, another parapsychologist, and they kept seeing a lady in white. There's the classic archetype, I should say. And she was in a haunting, and this apparition's moving about freely. Thought, okay, like what's going on here? We're seeing it with our eyes. Let's see if we've caught it on camera. And sure enough, they didn't catch it on camera, but they saw it was an apparition of a lady. They saw with their eyes, but what they captured on camera was an orb
Hmm.
projecting that archetype as a physiological construct. Problem is, again, is that when we're trying to define reality, we're trying to understand what is real. The fact is that if these archetypes are in fact physiological constructs, projections from some kind of corpuscular ball of light, then those entities that we have created entire fields about may not even exist.
So, man, so we could go different avenues. We've also discussed the simulation hypothesis. Like I'm not saying like we didn't discuss, so she didn't have to explain it again, but in case you have
Mhm.
newcomers onto the scene, it's not
Yeah,
like technically Sims World or a video game or the Matrix, but something much more. This reality is much more deeper and complex than we can ever fathom.
yes,
And so, do you think that our projected consciousness, everything, we are all energy. We
yeah,
like the saying, where our energy flows or our attention goes, energy flow,
yeah.
or whatever. Our energy goes, attention flows, whatever. Do you think that we manifest collectively somehow? We're connected to this cosmic Wi-Fi signal, whatever this
Yeah.
is, this cosmic internet, whatever. And whenever we all collectively kind of get on the same page, we project these things into the world, almost like certain occultists like Crowley and other,
Yeah.
Parsons, whatever, they do these seances, rituals, but they physically are manifesting these things. But are we collectively manifesting these things to the world? And so
Yeah.
are you saying that's what we're doing? And these things may not really exist, but these things are actually the manifestation from our deepest subconscious thoughts, or what?
I think it's kind of both. I do believe that there is an independent intelligence, and what it will do, it will lean upon our perception of it to hide behind a mask, right? It's my deceased ancestor. Well, how do you know? And then you start to realize that it is contorting itself according to your last memory of them. Hmm, that's interesting. Why? Again, because it's taking things out of our mind, going through the Rolodex of archetypes and manifestations to figure out the one that it can use to moderate your behavior the most, to get you to go along with a ritual, if I might say that, and then at which point it doesn't matter. Once it's successfully fulfilled, the gig's up. Doesn't matter now. Doesn't really matter if you realize I'm not who I'm supposed to be. It's already done. You have a good night, right? I'm gonna go do something else. And so I think the phenomenon's hiding behind our perception and using our perception to again to mold itself into a mask. This is why again we have extraterrestrials carving sigils into bodies. Not really what it is. It's just using that masquerade in order to perform its ritual. When it's done, it's done. You have a good night. And the experience doesn't even realize until we put them under ultraviolet light that they have been sigilized by the phenomena. And so what we're looking at again is an underlying common pathology that links various phenomena together. One of those archetypes, one of not even an archetype, one of those patterns being the orb. One of my it's sad. Like I lost a dear friend last April, not this April, but last April, Dr. Michael Lynch. While he and I disagreed on many aspects of the phenomenon, he was an incredible, incredible human being. But we would just, a lot like you and Steve and I just just sit and talk for hours. And we got on the Zoom call one day, and he's showing me photographs of different investigations he's had through the years. And he's been in the field at that point for like 27, 28 years. And of course, as we all do, we got onto orbs, what they were. And we were talking about plasma. And he's like, there is a mechanism of plasma employed. He said, but a lot of people don't understand it. He's like, okay, remember when I said Dr. Barry Taff had that case study with the orbs just to attack people, actually projected a construct, would also attack people. Well, Dr. Michael Lynch told me he had the same manifestation during one investigation. He's like, Nathaniel, he goes, we had sat down at a table in this haunted house. And he said we had a former special forces soldier there. And he's like, as we're talking, and he's like, we got the EVP thing going, we got all that EMF meters out. Um, he said a ball of light manifested, and now it's floating around the room. And then he said it goes inside of that ex special forces body, his body, it's inside. And once it got inside of him, it began to almost weaponize his own mind against him. He was freaking out, like negative energy, just lower vibrations are going through him, and he's terrified. And Dr. Lynch knew him personally. He's like, man, you've been on the battlefield. Like you're a pretty deadly guy. This is after the fact. Like, what terrified you? He said, well, it was when I started feeling a burning sensation from from the inside of my body and underneath my skin. And it was at that point, my man, that scratches begin to manifest from underneath the skin to the surface. You take your hand, you couldn't feel anything. It was in this same investigation that the same orb manifested and began to choke another man. And this is fascinating, but it's also enlightening for those who don't know about this specific kind of research. But the man's up against the wall, and this ball of light's around him, and he's feeling again, he's like, something is choking me. It has its hand wrapped around my neck. And he's like, I can't breathe. I can't breathe. Well, finally, the entity let up, and they found a human handprint around his neck. So the phenomenon, these balls of light can create apparitions at will. They can hang a person if they chose to, right? They could choke a person if they chose to. They could burn a person from underneath the skin to the surface if they chose to. And it was that he said he had another case. As Dr. Michael Lynch is fascinating. He's like, he goes, he said, I had just gotten to a house, and he's like, I got there about an hour and a half before the official ghost hunter team got there. And he said, when they got there, he's like, I'm already packing my equipment up. He goes, I'm outside of the home. He said, we got a lot of paranormal evidence. He said, they didn't get any. He's like, but we did. And he's like, at that time, he's like, I just purchased a laser thermometer off of eBay. And he's like, I'm pretty sure it was like old Russian surplus technology or something. He's like, I've got it for cheap. And he's like, so you know what? Might as well try it out. He's like, and I've been looking for a reason to use it. He's like, I couldn't think of anything. I don't know what am I going to use this on in the field? I'm not, but I'm just going to carry it just in case it's cool. He's like, and Nathaniel, he goes, the ghost hunter team gets in and they're rushing in to set up their equipment. I'm outside taking my time. He goes, my trunk's open, load my equipment up, and I look down at the bottom of the truck. I'm going, is that laser thermometer? I want to try it out. And he said, about that time, one of the orbs that they've caught in the house goes into an alleyway, turns around, and comes towards him. And Heck yeah. Well, hey, man. Opportunity knocks, and he zaps it with the laser thermometer. He's like, now, he goes, you sitting down the thing? And I said, yeah. He goes, okay. And the laser refracted off of it.
Huh.
What? He goes, yeah. It solidified to literally get bounce the laser off of it, right? He said, and even more interesting, perhaps, is that as soon as the laser light refracted off of it, it went right through a wall.
So he never got a reading off of it?
No, not the reading. No, he was more fat. No, not to know. Fascinating in terms of a temperature, no, but he was more fascinated with the fact that it had hardened itself knowingly and then just dissolved into a wall. Again, what we're looking at here is that if I were to say that I have a handprint on my neck, 5 fingers, or yeah, 4 fingers and the thumb, most people, logically speaking, would say, man, you got choked by a person, a human being. Wasn't. It was a ball of light. Let me go down this path real quick. Again, looking at the capabilities and asking ourselves, okay, do these entities even exist? Or are they just balls of light that are demonstrating anthropomorphism, right? They're anthropomorphic to the extent that we think it's an entity, it's a man's hand. Oh, it's somebody that hung him. Oh, it's choking this one. No, 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 no. Whatever they are, they have that ability to make it seem that that's the case. Take it a step further, Nathaniel, since you asked. Christopher Bledsoe, before his initial abduction, he's in the woods and he hears the footfall of a man. How do we know that? Because he told us. He said it in an interview. He's listening, he's walking, he stops walking, and he hears behind him leaves and sticks being broken, and the footfall and shuffling of a man walking behind him. He turns around to expect his son or one of his coworkers or somebody, a hunter, somebody. And it's just a ball of light. Oh, add that to the mix. It can sound like the footfall of a human. Check. It can manifest a handprint on the neck. Check. It can project a physiological construct. Yep. And the fact is that they're not just witnessed within hauntology, but we have evidence within demonology, specifically in exorcisms, where they're talking to the entity and they said, what do you look like? And one of them said, I look like an egg, an ostrich egg. Fascinating stuff. My point, though, is to answer your question earlier, it appears that what we're dealing with is a singular intelligence that's diversifying its identity in our eyes. Once it's in our presence, it can project a physiological construct. Is it real? Until it isn't.
How you
Is it
define real?
physical?
Yeah.
Real? Exactly right. Exactly. Oh, I can feel it. I can, I can monitor it. I can quantify it scientifically. And again, this goes back to Bud Hopkins. Somebody asked him a question. Okay, are these entities physical? And he said, most of the time. Sometimes. Well, now what we're dealing with again is this idea that if, again, watch this. Ontology, the study of the afterlife. Well, what preceded that? Again, the archetype of the afterlife. What is that? An apparition, somebody deceased ancestor. Okay, but if that is a construct, then what we've done is we've created mythologies and entire theories, let alone fields of research, centered around a projection, something, someone doesn't even exist. And it's possible that the pre-archetype, before all of the other incarnations, is just a ball of light, balls of light that are intelligent and that can virtually do whatever they want to do.
Do you think that these, okay, you know my podcast. I cover kind of like the no
Yep.
holds barred coast to coast. You know, like I cover
Ghost to
I
ghost again.
the maybe the old style. You know, where I
Yep.
cover conspiracies, the paranormal, ancient
Hmm.
mysteries. So, do you think that there's a connection? See, before I ask you that, I feel like what we need to do
Hmm.
get the brilliant minds. You know, Steve Mera, Barry
Yep.
Fitzgerald, um, you, so many other people that study the phenomena.
Yep.
They need to look into conspiracies also, or go down those deep dark rabbit holes also, because I think there's a connection. I don't know what it is, man,
Hmm.
because you talking about this phenomena can strangle you, hang you, whatever. What do we have all the time in these rabbit holes, man? We have people that suicided, and
Absolutely. That's cerebral.
some it probably seems like they did because there's no other
Yeah.
evidence.
Right.
And a lot of it, so in a lot of these are really, some of them are taken out. I think they're obviously taken out 100%,
Hmm.
but maybe not all of them are taken out, but it looks like there was no other, you know what I mean? So maybe, see, my thing is the reason why I focus a lot with those deep dark rabbit holes, conspiracies, whatever, and this phenomena is because I think one way, shape, or form there's a connection. You could say
Hmm.
that some of these elite motherfuckers, it's like they have a demonic marching army. It's like that's doing their bidding. It's like
Yeah.
rather they know it or not, they are possessed by something. I don't, it
Right.
could be an archonic parasite, it could be some type of whatever.
Hmm.
And they are in touch with the dark side. They are engulfed with darkness, these MFers, you know, these globalists, whatever. And there's no telling what they do behind the scenes, rituals, seances. They're obsessed with numbers. You
Hmm.
know, it's always like just with Charlie Kirk, 33, 33. Wow. Like from, I think the whole time from it happened, it took 33 hours to find the killer. You know, it's like you see,
Hmm.
it's just all this weirdness and bizarreness. You know, it's just, I think there's a connection, man. I don't know what it is, but
Hmm.
some of these globalists, elites, whatever, the top of the food chain, the top of the pyramid, they have certain aspects of this phenomena, I think, doing their bidding. Whether these
Yeah.
elites know it or not,
Yep.
I think some of them do. Some are that some of these elites are that dark into the occult, or that just dark on a spiritual moral,
Both, probably. Yeah.
to where that they are possessed by something. And rather, I don't, how does it work? I don't know. What's the
Yeah.
mechanisms, the functions behind it? I don't know, but there is a connection. I feel like
Well.
we need more, because these people aren't creating this chaotic world, this
Hmm.
dystopian, this this dystopian world, man. This nightmare clown world. They're not creating this new world order, all this other crap, just off
Hmm.
the top of their heads. It's
Right.
like they're, I feel like some of them are being guided by something, a force. What is that force? You know, like there's a
It's.
connection, and we need more people like you, Barry,
Mhm.
Steve, other people that research this to go down. I know it may not be popular because, because there's gonna be a
It
lot of
won't
people.
be.
There's gonna be a lot of people that watch y'all. There's gonna be a lot of people that watch y'all, Steve. A lot of people in the paranormal aspects. That's gonna be like,
Hmm.
that don't even believe that 9/11 was an inside job or nothing like that. Like, no, no.
Well.
So I'm not gonna watch Steve Mara no more because he's talking about that. No. So we gotta, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
maybe we gotta tackle other aspects. Look at some of these reporters that wind up mysteriously dying. Is there a phenomena aspect to it? Or is it Mossad or CIA or whoever? You know.
Could be both. The closest model of the phenomenon I found to be true is the ultra terrestrial model, where I've been wrestling with this, my friend, here lately, because just like people would kind of boycott these conversations, the conversations you just referred to, and wanting them to be done because they need to be done. They need to be spoken and people need to talk about. But the reason they're boycotting this stuff is because I believe 100% that there's something innate within them that's like, that does sound true. And it scares me. It's cognitive dissonance. It's terrifying. It's uncomfortable. It's indigestible. As Jim Semivan said earlier in that podcast, what kind of a model of phenomenon would the government like desperately, desperately stop us from knowing to where true and ultimate disclosure would essentially place every person on this planet underneath their bed, wondering about everything, God, the existence, our species, our role in the universe, on the planet. Is this our planet? Is my soul my soul? Is my body? Or am I just an avatar for another parasitic species? Is the soul itself a different species of the body? I mean, let's go down the list. This is kind of where I'm leaning, where it's like, yeah, we live in an artificial habitat. The only time we know the paranormal is when the black cat in the Matrix manifests and we see an anomaly, paranormality, something paraphysical, as John Keel says. And we pay close attention to that and we start researching that. And once we start researching that, everything begins to disappear. You realize, oh my God, that's either a glitch or it's someone who's in charge of maintaining the construct, number one, and number two, maintaining our perception of the construct. That's where people start disappearing. And they have been threatened. Dr.
And,
Carla Turner, Barbara Bartholomew. Yep.
exactly. Oh, go ahead,
Right?
bro.
If you get too close, not to the lie, right? No propagandist is like, listen, I'm going to have to, don't believe in my propaganda. It's the truth, or it's closer to the truth. Those are the people that end up missing. They end up getting turbo cancer,
Yeah.
or, and this is the truth of the matter, or the phenomenon forces them to succumb to their own mental illnesses, or right into where, yeah, it's the phenomenon, but it plays a role and it triggers them and puts them in places they don't want to be in. And so they're Peter Panning, pulling triggers, do overdosing. I got to get out of here. That again, the real whistleblowers in the government, and I say real, I don't want to say that. What can I use in its stead?
I get what you're trying to say, though. Yeah.
Wink, wink. Yeah, they've jumped out of windows. Why? Why? If in fact, okay, yeah. Oh, it's just the fact they're extraterrestrial. Okay, cool. We've been theorizing about that for the last 50, 60 years. My God, we have Star Trek. We have Trekkies. Like they're hoping this is real, right? We have science fiction writers. I mean, again, we have entire Hollywood productions centered around the extraterrestrial hypothesis. Why would we be terrified of that? Because that's not the case. It's not really the model. The model is closer. I can tell you this with surety because I've talked to people. I know the research is being done. The model is closer to the fact that we live in a construct. And the only thing we know about this world is filtered through our senses.
Amen.
And
There we go.
at that time, though, we are also blinded by our own vision, deafened by our ability to hear. Why? Because it's almost like we as a species have been created to be blinded, so that whatever they are can operate outside of our sensory awarenesses. And then even when it interfaces with us, it will veil itself according to our senses. I have an archetype. Are you really? Sure. What are you doing? I am putting my hand in this glove. You're seeing the glove. You're not seeing my hand. I'm putting my face in this mask. You're seeing the mask, not my face. This is why, my friend, that after all of the archetypes are seen through and all the masks are exploited, we sit down with the question and say, okay, yeah, that's your alias. But what are you really doing? What are you really doing? And getting back to the Collins Elite research, that's why people like to project, right? They like to project, oh, they're just Christian fundamentalists. That is not true. They started their research from that perspective. But my friends, where they started is not at all where they ended. Where they ended was, yeah, there's a species in the afterlife. That's not Christian eschatology. My man, you know this. And what I'm having an issue with are these. Oh man, I was gonna cut loose.
Go ahead.
Simpleton individuals who have zero knowledge about demonology, specifically about the Collins Elite, who want to project their ignorance, Sunday school bumper sticker theology upon people who actually do have insights. And oh well, they're simple folk. No, they were physicists from the Department of Defense. Like you're a science fiction writer. Let's get that straight, first of all. Not even in the same category. Not even in the same category. But what we're dealing with, again, is this desire to obfuscate the truth. Forget about the answer. You're not even allowed to question. It's alarming. And what I'm realizing, it's very, and forgive me, everybody who watches this, I probably should have said what I said. However, I stand my ground. I'm willing to die on this hill. If anybody had any kind of knowledge, any cursory insight into biblical eschatology, or even Jewish ideas of the afterlife, or any works of Gershom Scholem, I could go down the list of bibliography and all that, whatever, you'd know, hey, maybe that's not really what they believed. Maybe they also came to a species that was unquantifiable. Now, not just by mythology, but by theology. Well, it's a demon, sure. Demon carving its own sigils into a body? No, sir. Have a seat. Let's talk about it. Again, the problem is the discourse going on in open source research. When people think of demonologists, think of Ed and Lorraine Warren, right? They think of ufologists, they think of, but they don't really know, hey, we got a problem in the model. We do. You know, again, I hate to be a dead horse here, but and I was doing some research yesterday. Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you're finding sigils and semen on a victim, no. Again, Christian eschatology. Here we go. Boom. The fallen angels are in prison and chained to darkness. So that's not them. And their offspring, now they're disembodied. So that's not them. Not
What
them.
what if the human
Whatever that is, my friend, we need to talk about. Nobody's talking about it because, again, on one side, we have people ignorant of demonology saying, you guys, these call it elite guys, they're just fundamentalists. And then we have other people who are also ignorant of demonology saying, well, they're definitely demons. And my point is, I'll say this and you can talk, I guess. Sorry, I got to get this out, man.
go ahead, man.
What they realized was that there's a new species here. And it might not be new, it might not be novel or modern, it may be ancient. Maybe ancient life to be rediscovered in a new way. I don't know, my friend, but the point stands that we're looking at a practitioner that's replicating, not a demon. It may be demonized, maybe a practitioner of the occult. And this is some of the theories of the ancient church fathers, right? Where not ancient, but church fathers and even philosophers, that there are occultists that can perform so many rituals and that can become so utterly defiled by them that they join the ranks of the demonic post-mortem, and they do so to continue performing their rituals. Where would they be if that occurred? Well, they would just so happen to be in the afterlife. What would they be doing if that occurred and if that's where they were? They would continue performing their rituals. Is that why we're finding sigils on skin?
What
What's
if
going on here? Yeah.
what if these entities, this force, whatever, this phenomena, what if they're using us collectively as the altar or the sigil, whatever?
The living altar. Yeah.
Because it's almost like this reality is a Monsters Inc. type world.
Mhm.
If they feed on
Mhm.
negativity, they feed on negative energy. What if they are using our subconscious? Because parapsychology. What if they're
Right.
tapping into this, to our subconscious minds, to our minds? They're creating this confusion, like what with the shooting with Kirk, and
Right.
then you had this left right crap. And what if it's not just people that's creating this, but they're manifesting through us to create this negative world, this upside down world,
Yep.
this dark and heavy, dense world. They're using us to do this. It's infighting, all this, everything, because
Yeah.
they thrive. This force thrives. This phenomena thrives in that type of dense, heavy type world.
Hmm.
That's why things keep getting worse, it seems like, because they're using us, and we're just feeding into we're use our energy, this
Yeah.
negativity, this dense energy that we're emitting. Social
Hmm.
media, the shootings, everything,
Hmm.
race, they're feeding
Right.
on that, and they're thriving, just like Monsters Inc. to fuel the city.
Yes. The phenomenon seeks to be seen, and when it is seen, it often incarnates an archetype. We know this. We know of, again, I don't know if I mentioned it on the last show. We know that Gary Nolan's had another case again, where as a young French boy is in a car, he looks up on the sunroof and sees a craft hovering above the car. He describes it very, very well to his mother, and his mother goes, "Well, I got a camera phone." What he described is not what they captured on camera.
Hmm.
Sounds like parapsychology.
Yeah.
Sounds like the phenomenon is manipulating our perception of it. Why? Because it's protecting the true construct of reality.
Is that is
My
that
God.
is is that true construct reality? Do they thrive in that dense, heavy, dark that
So,
we're emitting?
yeah,
Do they thrive, and
yes,
that's what they're trying to create, or what?
I do believe that. Again, this gets back into ritual sacrifice throughout history, even where, oh God, this is a dangerous concept, dangerous theory. But I'm proposing a theory in the field where even some of the ghosts that we're seeing at murder sites aren't really the ghosts. It's a feeding frenzy for an entity that once again is incarnating as an archetype. Of course, I'm the person that died here. No, you're not. But you are here because they died. That's terrifying. But getting back to again the
Almost like a
dynamics and
soul eater, almost like they're they're
something
they're, they're
like that.
using us to create these
Batteries,
catastrophes. Yes.
batteries and avatars, batteries and avatars. We are hosts. Many of us are avatars to them, replicas of life. And dare I say again, if we're dealing with the ability of the phenomenon, we're still trying to understand that, honestly, because we think we know what we're experiencing. But even then, it's like, well, how? I mean, we can't say, number one, what I experienced was real without also saying at the same time that they can manipulate the construct of reality. Both of those are occurring. If one thing occurs, the other one had to have occurred before it. The secondary consequence. It's epiphenomenon, not phenomena, epiphenomenon, right? Like, okay, yeah, what is it doing? Again, it's forcing a perception of the construct upon us. It's no different than the Truman Show. I want you to perceive the stage managed performance. Watch this, it's crazy. And if I can't control what is seen, I'll control how you see it. Not just the phenomenon. No, no, I can manipulate it too, but I can also manipulate what you see, what you perceive. So it's right. Okay, yeah, it's not just manifesting to you as the phenomenon. It can also manifest through you as the phenomenon. And we as researchers are trying to discern the difference. And this is again, this is what the call and delete realized was first of all, right? They all had different theological backgrounds. So they're not all fundamentalists. But they pretty much came to the same conclusion, and that was that somehow through ritual, reality is influenced. Jack Parsons, John Dee. And not just that, but there are moments. This is going to be kind of a game changer for those who haven't heard this. So, buckle up, peeps. Where the entities will manifest, will import an object into this construct and give it to an experiencer or an occultist and communicate through that, right? So let's go back in time. John B was given by the angel a small mirror to divine through by the phenomenon. Boop, here's the port. There you go. Take it. Now you can communicate, right? You can communicate with it. Albert K. Bender was given a disc by the others, communicated through it to them, right? Then you get into um it's everywhere, but you start realizing, I mean, even Chris Bledsoe was given an object by the phenomenon. Here, later on, the phenomenon removed it. What are these? What are these? They're ports. They're manifestations, materializations from beyond the construct into this reality, and it anchors both. Now, I'm of the opinion that some implants are, in fact, materializations underneath the skin. Let's take it a step further. Dear friend Steve Merritt and Barry Fitzgerald, they're dealing with ports in their field, in their investigations. Like, okay, one couple had an apport that they didn't even know it was an apport. That ought to scare some folk here. Didn't even know it was an apport. But what happened was they had a figurine, and the husband and wife are getting angry. They're in some kind of argument, a dispute, and one of them looks down, and the figurine moving, and so in a fit of anger, they take it, throw it outside, walk back inside. It's right back on the shelf.
Yeah.
Which one was real? The one that got destroyed, or the one that's no? It's the one, right? What's going on here? That's the real question. And so Barry and Steve had these cases that got so prolific and so, I guess, common, where they started thinking to themselves, like, man, this is something's up here. Like, what's going on here? And so finally they had this haunting. Family is being deeply affected by the paranormal. And they're like, we bought a series of coffee mugs. And Steve just talked about this on his channel. So if you guys want to go there, Steve Bear's channel, you can. It's in a short, by the way, not an actual video. But one day, one of the coffee mugs goes missing. Seeks his interest, their interest. It's like, okay, this is strange. What's going on? And a couple months or so go by, I think it was. And next thing you know, you get a phone call. Look, guys, I don't know how we missed it, but that coffee mug's back. And it's in a location that we've searched over and over again. Like it's right out in plain sight. So the phenomenon replaced it. Because, we got to run a test. We're going to send this off to a laboratory. We're going to run a test on it because that's abnormal. It's paranormal, obviously. That's why we're here. But we kind of got a hunch that there's something deeper at play. Here's why. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the phenomenon does not play around. What we're realizing now is even the poltergeist activity is not a mindless, unguided process. It's the phenomenon, feeling energy. And then once it directs itself to a pathology, a goal, it's already siphoned enough energy out of the environment to now do it, to perform it within construct. So Steve goes, well, you guys have another coffee mug I can kind of control it, look at it, compare it to, this is what a coffee mug should look. We bought that coffee mug with a few others. Really? Yeah. Wait a minute. See, they're the same coffee mugs, essentially. Absolutely. Same design, makeup, serial, all of it. Okay, cool. So we sends these off to the laboratory. The laboratory came back with very alarming results. Number one, I think it was the other two or three had the same isotopic ratio, same material, same design. Everything was the exact same. The coffee mug that materialized had a separate isotopic ratio, completely different. So the question is, did the phenomenon change the isotopic ratio? Because is it the same mug that was taken? and by virtue of being taken and then returned, it changed the isotopic ratio. That's one theory. Let me propose an entirely different theory. That's not the real coffee mug. It's not the same coffee mug, my friend. It's the phenomenon creating a replica, something that looks and imitates portions of reality. You can drink coffee out of it, but it's not the same coffee mug.
Well,
Now,
go ahead, man. Sorry. Well, I was just about to say
yeah,
that's exactly what these Satanists, these elites, the Satanists, globalists, that's what they do, man. They invert reality. They don't
yes, of course,
invert.
absolutely.
They create a false version of what reality is. Everything's
Yeah.
inverted, just like the coffee cup. That's why I think there's a connection with certain global players and this
Yeah.
phenomena. You know,
Oh, you're exactly right. And we're going to get there. It's fascinating stuff. So again, they're thinking like this is a problem. Like this is a major problem. And then they had another case that kind of tied everything into a bow and then leaves us with another startling implication. And that was that, again, not an apparition, but an apport took place. It manifested in a home full of activity. And so Barry and Steve said, you know what? We're kind of getting tired of this. We're going to do something. They took the apport out of the home,
Hmm.
placed it in a storage area, let it be. So the next day, they get a phone call from the family. Hey, guys, you guys are the best researchers we've had. Thank you for what you've done for our family. The phenomenon's gone. Even Barry said, no, it's not. It's triangulating. Now, I did this the other day. Somebody's like, no, that's a circle. It's triangulating, right? Triangulating. And so they ran an experiment. They took the apport, put it back in the home. Let's go to dinner. Let's see what's going to happen. Same phenomenon that had apported that in the home, that triangulated, was searching for it. And as soon as it was replaced, right back where the phenomenon needed it to be, it created another connection, a portal for that phenomenon to incarnate into this construct. Paranormality occurred. Boom. Orbs, all kinds of stuff. The anchor. Now, the phenomenon will replicate objects in this reality in which to anchor itself to. Take a step further, Nathaniel, if you ask. Thank you. Well, now, late one night or early one morning, forget which, because he and I live in different time zones. Up on the phone, I'm like, man, I think I've heard of apports before, but it's not in the context of hauntology and parapsychology. It's in the context of demonology. Where, and I kept racking my brain. I'm telling you, like for a whole a whole day. And so I'm scrambling through my grimoires, scrambling through Hostage the Devil and any and all books on demonology. And I realized, like, oh my God, I've heard of that in demon possession.
I think this is where when you gave me a phone call one day, you said you had this epiphany or something like that.
Might have been. It might have been. Because, okay. So I started getting this. Okay, it's replicating reality. Yes. So if something isn't there, it will place something there that it won't make sense. It'll catch the eye, but it'll try to act like it's a part of this reality, but we know it's not. Even getting back to the archetypes that incarnate from orbs, we have cryptids that are walking on 2 feet. They're barely moving, but they're keeping up with the pace of a 45-mile-an-hour car. No way it should be happening because it's not really happening. It's a construct. It's a program. It's rendering into our reality. And sometimes there are glitches where it doesn't have it all right. And we see it. Oh, yeah, you don't even have the food source to be a wolf man out here. So you're lying. I am. I am lying now that you nailed me. And so my point is that it will create constructs and anchor itself to them. Specifically, again, in this context, in the haunting was when they're trying to get the phenomenon out of the house. It said absolutely not. Manifest an apport. anchor myself to it. You're not kicking me out.
Hmm.
We've heard that in demonology. We've heard that in exorcisms. When the priest is interfacing with the entity and the entity's just about to leave, but it doesn't know what else to do. So it will start to regurgitate from the cavity of the demoniac ports. It will replicate physiological constructs. It will replicate apports, materializations. Why? In demonology, again, well, it's trying to purify us. No, 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 no. It's replicating, it's anchoring itself, transferring from the person to the object. It just materialized in this construct. Did you eat nails, demoniac? Absolutely not. Why? Because you didn't eat nails. That's the phenomenon. Did you buy that coffee cup? Absolutely not. Right? Or is that the same figurine? No, I just destroyed it. What is it? It's something. The phenomenon is replicating, separating, and then will latch itself to it, anchor its presence in this construct. Now, that means there's two possibilities. Either we're dealing with a species that is in complete control of a construct,
Or
or a species that's fighting for control of a construct. And I think the latter is the case. Here's why. Because they cannot hold their form for too long. They can't. They lean on a learning matrix to incarnate. We know that through abduction accounts, where okay, like it's almost like it has to pull from energy to hold its form, and then once that bank is empty, right? It has to. Oh my God, what can I be now? I can't be your favorite cartoon anymore. No, what am I gonna do? Right? It either anchors itself or it leaves. So when you look at this and you look at the fact that you have partial rendering, where it's not even fully materialized, it's an image rendering itself into the construct. You look at the programming, right? Well, I'm your dear Aunt Edna. Why? Because I chose to be that. So I can't be that any longer, or I decide not to. Something else happens. My point, though, is again, there are mechanisms that it weaponizes in order to either control portions of reality or our perception of it. And now what we're seeing is that's the same mechanism. And I believe it's the same reason. You're trying to kick it out of the house, it manifests in the port to anchor itself to. You're trying to kick it out of the person, it manifests in the port to anchor itself to.
hmm.
So whatever we're dealing with, we only know because we saw the black cat. You see that? Yeah, that's a glitch. Whatever that is, the program failed. We've seen this all throughout the history of the phenomenon. Forget about demonology. I mean, again, we can go into witch literature, Ariel Masters. I've mentioned it in hundreds of interviews where witches and sorcerers believed they were being abducted by demons. Why? Because that was the program that was being run on them. It appealed to their senses and their belief system, both. Combining both, it manipulated their perception of reality and, more importantly, their perception of the entities. Because these same individuals who thought, now, this is another crazy model of phenomenon, they're performing rituals. That happened. That's true. We know that even in modernity. Jack Parsons, Crowley, all of that. We know that's still present. But my point is, these individuals were abducted by demons and thought they were copulated with corpses of demons, and they realized like the phenomenon glitched. They're looking around and they're not on the backside of the mountain. They're being poked and prodded by metallic objects that were designed according to the measure of a man. It is fulfilling the sensual part of our awareness to help further our perception of reality. Uh, Only this time, that's not even a man, that's a machine. So they were performing rituals in the presence of machinery and technology. What are we dealing with here? Again, that doesn't make any sense. So my point here, ladies and gentlemen, bear with me, is that yes, this indicates a construct in that the newest data coming forward, and I can't go too far into this, of course, is that the sigils are some kind of code that help construct much of the reality that these practitioners are trying to control. That they, whatever they are, it's a novel species, at least to the field. Early demonologists had no way to quantify them. It's a demon until it secretes and impregnates a woman. What is that? No. Even Christian mythology, Nephilim, and Jewish demonology has no room for that. In jinn sorcery, to a degree, at least they talk about replication. But whatever we're dealing with, again, I do believe it's exactly what the Collins elite realized was forget about the dogma, look at the data. People are projecting dogma on their work. No, their conclusion was there's something in the afterlife, and we've heard rumors of that even with the whistleblowers. Whatever we're dealing with exists outside of space time. It knows who's going to die. It knows when they're going to die. Knows what clothes they're going to be wearing when they die. Um, and it's in control or is fighting for control over this construct in the afterlife. Where are they at in the afterlife? Okay, what kind of a species would be performing sex magic on us, but would somehow exist in the afterlife? That's interesting. Why is it that the occult practices we're discovering right now on abductees are earthly born? Theban iconography. No. Again, even sigilization, according to classic occultism, even Western occultism specifically, it's the sigil of the entity written, performed by the practitioner. Okay. What about sigils that are underneath the skin? What kind of species could do that? What kind of a species could change the physiology of the skin the sigils are in? What? There, again, what? Like, okay, guys, just be honest about it. And it's not even the fact that a lot of people don't even know this is happening. They don't believe that. The fact is, it is occurring, you know, but a lot of times because the inability to quantify exists, like I don't know where to place that, I'd rather not talk about it. But by all implications here and indications, it appears that we're dealing with someone who is still performing their occult rituals in the afterlife or outside of space time upon our species. And they're following certain occult traditions that are earthly born, earthly performed, and that raises a major problem. Now, I do have other cases. One is in not cases, but some, I don't know, indicators. The Testament of Solomon, allegedly, if we take the Testament of Solomon to be true, even if it wasn't written by Solomon, if we take it to be true, let's just throw that out there, whatever. Solomon was interrogating a hound. It conjured an entity that appeared to him as a dog. And at first, Solomon said, "You're a demon, aren't you?" And the entity said, "No, no, I may appear as a hound to you, but I was once a sorcerer in life. I was once a practitioner. I am but a man." And he said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said that through my ritual contamination, I had bound myself to something else, something other than through ritual. And through the amount of rituals I performed, it slowly, it, I began to gain their characteristics as a sorcerer. It changed me. And now that I'm outside of space time and in the afterlife, I'm here, but I'm still continuing my ritual and my research. These are some of the ancient arguments as to what's going on. But rest assured, my friend, if the Nephilim theory is right, then the data we're seeing is wrong. And the data's not wrong. Data's not wrong. Again, if the fallen angels are trapped in chains of darkness, then they're trapped in chains of darkness. They're sure as heck ain't abducting people and inseminating them. No. And if their offspring are disembodied spirits, then they also sure as heck ain't abducting them and inseminating them. So there's a third category here. And I do believe that the Collins elite were trying to articulate that to the best of their abilities. But again, when you're dealing with physicists who are highly intellectual, and by the way, their religious backgrounds didn't even agree with each other. Different eschatologies, different traditions, different theologies, you know? We just people like to lump them in. It's again, it's a logical fallacy, and it's called a straw man argument. My point, though, is yeah, whatever we're dealing with, my friend, there's something out there that's been unquantified, uh, and I think that Matthew Brown has pointed to that, hinted at it. Between his tweets on X or X is on X. I don't know. It's not Twitter anymore.
Yeah, X.
Yeah, X. Yeah. And his interviews where he's spoken about how we live in a construct and others have made it out. Which, mind you, guess who he refers to and what Enochian magic, John D.
Did they make it out? I know we're about to round things up, but did they
Yeah.
make it out on their own, or you talking about to the coffee cup? Hold up, hold up.
Yes.
Well, because if they're able to swap a coffee cup out, right?
Mhm.
Who's to say that they can't swap the real Tyler Robinson out who shot Charlie Kirk? Because
Wow.
he was just a
Yeah.
good kid. He was a church going kid. We see this all the time, not just him, but
Yeah.
all the time. Nobody would have ever fathomed he would have done that. And then boom, coffee cup.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
it's
good
almost
point.
like a dark manifestation of a Manchurian candidate.
So, swapping them out. In with your literature, they've had cases where the phenomenon would take the practitioner a witch out of the bed. Husband would wake up in the middle of the night and he would see what he thinks is his wife curled up sleeping next to him. And then it wasn't her at all. The phenomenon had replicated her in his construct, which you and I have had conversations about
Yeah.
that. Yeah. Like my point though is the phenomenon again has such a way of threatening people, and we don't really know what to take seriously or not. And it's okay, yeah, whatever. Sure, you can't do that. Why? Because I don't believe you can. Dr. Carla Turner had a case study of a woman that was not um, obeying them, her abductors, and she's, I'm angry at you. I'm not doing anything you tell me to do. And they said, well, okay, if you want to do that, you can. But you see that thing laying over there on the table, and she looks over, and there is a replica of her, a copy of her. Oh, no, stick, by the way. Right? Again, the long codex to the Apocryphon of John, they created copies of bodies. And this gets back to the old Gnostic argument, right? If they can create copies of bodies, can they create copies of reality or replicas of reality to where that's not really a plane, it's something else? Now, again, that opens up the possibility that not every abductee that returned really came back.
Empty vessels.
Empty vessels, avatars. And I'm telling you, people are going to say Nathaniel has a mental illness. I can't believe he's talking about. It's fine.
If you
Trust
do,
me.
I do too, man.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay. At the same time, there's a major problem. Major problem. You know, Getting back to this idea that whatever some of these beings are, um, it's not just like I said, the sigils that we're seeing underneath the skin or the handprints on the neck or the scratches. And I've had cases like that. Somebody sent in a picture of scratches underneath the skin. Didn't even, I've had two of those, matter of fact. Don't even know what it is. How did it happen? Stayed at a haunted house. Didn't know it. I was overseas or I was in Africa or something, taking a safari and boom, I was attacked, woke up and it's like literally something just shredded their arm,
Well,
but it's not on,
I
it's
showed you the
underneath the skin.
images of me waking up one morning going to work.
Yeah,
Remember
I
on my
remember that.
arm? Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But it's not just that, like Steve Maris sent me a picture about a month ago of a conjurer. Someone who was trying to invoke entities, and the phenomenon disciplined him, beat him up. So much so that a handprint, he discovered a handprint, bottom of the hand, top of the bottom of the hand, pushing itself out of the man's skin. And you see it. It's right here on the body, and it's there. They ran light tests on it, and at the laboratory discovered it's underneath the skin, Michael. Underneath the skin. Now, sure, there are two arguments. Demonology says, well, there's a lot of things they can do, but it's not real. Okay, let's go with that. Not really. Come on, let's be honest about it. It is real. A lot of these aren't illusions. These aren't nocturnal pollutions. And it's frustrating at times, but man, I appreciate you having me on again, man. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, man. And we can just keep going and going and going. That's why we got to try to somewhat discipline ourselves because me and you could easily have 2, 3, 4 hour podcast, but
Absolutely.
it's best to try to kind of cut them up in, in pieces here and there. But yeah, dude, it's always a treat, honor, and privilege to have you on, brother from another mother. Love you.
Eh,
Appreciate it, man.
love you too, buddy. Always a pleasure, man.